Well. Marvel Studios is, they're in quite a pickle. So the last two films that have really come out for Marvel have not done all that great at the box office. Granted, Black Panther Wakanda Forever did better than all the other ones, but when you get down to brass tacks, the ability for Marvel to make these $800 million, $1 billion films just doesn't seem to be as strong as it once was. The reason we're talking about this is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is currently trending pretty poorly when it comes to the box office outlook. Now, let's take a look real first. This is coming from BoxOfficePro.com. We talked about how the first two films were considered box office and audience hits. They both came out in 2014, 2017. Combining, they generated about $723 million domestically, which is pretty impressive. The reaction of the trailers, the hype around Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 right now isn't really all that high. But what is the reason for it? You know, we've seen films like Super Mario Brothers do fantastic right now. Worldwide, Super Mario Brothers is at $900 million. It will break the $1 billion mark. But why is Marvel having trouble? Well, right now, it's showing that, let's see here. Where's it at? There we go. Guardians of the Galaxy is looking to trend anywhere between $120 and $155 million in the first 3 days, in their opening weekend. That's not terrible. That's the one thing people don't seem to understand is when you take a look at these movies, everybody expects $250 million openings and just astronomical amounts of money. But why? With that, again, this is all domestically. It's showing between $288 and $403 million when all is said and done in its domestic run. But why? Why are people freaking out about this? Here's the thing. On the lead up, the build up to Infinity War and Endgame and all that jazz, these films were raking in millions and millions and millions of dollars because there was a story, there was something that it was all building to. Right now, we don't really know what that is. Even with Kang the Conqueror popping up in Ant-Man and the Wasp, even with seeing a version of him in Loki and knowing that the next season of Loki is going to address that in some form or fashion, we still don't know where it's all leading to. Yeah, Kang Dynasty, Secret Wars, but there's nothing that's pulling us in to have to go and see these films. So yeah, I think in a way, Marvel needs to be a little worried, and fans too, that these numbers aren't great. But let's play conservatively here. Let's say it's full run. Guardians of the Galaxy does say $300 million domestically. I think internationally, it'll probably do 300 or so internationally. Maybe 400 internationally. You're still talking about a $700 million movie. The idea of a $1 billion film, I think people got spoiled with that in the comic book genre. Let's face it, before the Avengers, the only comic book movie to hit that mark was The Dark Knight. And that was because of some pretty crazy circumstances. Yeah, it's a solid film. But let's face it, had Heath Ledger not passed away, had Heath Ledger not given his A game in that film, it wouldn't have made $1 billion. It's not that good of a movie. The Avengers made $1 billion. Civil War made $1 billion. And we started to see these movies more and more make $1 billion. But that's not the norm. Those are the exceptions to the rule. No studio is going in there expecting $1 billion. For a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, which probably cost them in the range of $200 million to make, you have to then take a look and say, okay, $200 million, say $300 million marketing. So to break even, the quote unquote break even mark is between $500 and $600 million. So if it makes $700 million, if it makes $800 million, it did exactly what it had to do. Now, if we go down to these lower numbers, the 120 million on the opening weekend, the 288 million overall, that's kind of low. And that could be where things get a little worrisome. But this all comes down to the idea if the film is good. Take Ant-Man and the Wasp, for instance. That movie didn't do well in the box office because it wasn't a very good film. It was enjoyable. It was fun, sure. But it wasn't this spectacle. It wasn't this film you had to go and see. Guardians of the Galaxy could be a film like that. They're fun. They're goofy. They've got a lot of heart, a lot of action. So this could be a movie that, for the beginning of the summer movie season, in a way, because that's what kind of May is. It's kind of the beginning of the summer movie experience. I think it might be one of those movies like, hey, yeah, let's go check it out. This is the first big summer movie. Is it going to finish $1 billion? Is it going to finish the top grossing film of the year? No. But it doesn't need to. I have been one to criticize Marvel. I've been one to talk about the MCU, and I've been one to say, look, there's an issue going on at Marvel. And I will say, if this film doesn't do well, and then let's say the Marvels doesn't do well, because let's face it, the Marvels, it's got an uphill battle. But if these next two films don't do well, then we're talking about 3 to 5 films that have underachieved and in the span of a year. And that is concerning. That is where you want to sit back and say, okay, what's going on at Marvel? We need to go back to the drawing board. But, when you take a look at it, Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't perform. Wasn't a great film. Thor: Love and Thunder didn't perform. It wasn't a great film. Black Panther it only made money because Chadwick Boseman died and people felt they had to go see it to see how they honored Chadwick Boseman. It wasn't a good movie, though. So, yeah, we got 3 movies right now that are kind of meh. If Guardians can kind of bring that back, then the Marvels can have a little bit of leeway. But I think it's time for them to sit back and start to evaluate what they need to do to right the ship. But not making $1 billion isn't that big of a deal. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, let's take a look here. I want to see something here. Box Office Mojo. And we're going to go Guardians of the Galaxy. So the first Guardians of the Galaxy at Box Office Mojo. Overall, worldwide, 772 million. Not bad. If we take a look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, that made a total of 863 million. And this is where people are starting to get scared, because it's a possibility that Volume 3 makes less than the 863. But we have to remember, people still aren't going to the theater. They're not going in droves. And I'm not saying it's the pandemic, but the economy is bad right now. That plays a role in this. I will say, comfortably, I believe, 800 million, 750 to 800 million is more than feasible for Guardians of the Galaxy theatrical run. With a domestic of about 350 to 400. That's on the high end of 400, maybe 350 to 375. That's what I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you scared? Do you think that Marvel should be worried? I don't think they should. I think it's not that big of a deal. I think when you take a look at this, everybody's freaking out about box office numbers right now. And honestly, as long as it makes around what the last one made, give or take some, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, $2 million, what have you. If it makes close to it, then it's fine. Let's not forget that this Guardians movie is the final of the trilogy, and one that has been touted to say goodbye to these characters. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Marvel, if this does fail or if it does not fail. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. Make sure you share this with all your friends and family. We want 2,000 subscribers. I'd love to get it by the end of this month. So hit that subscribe button. Share this with your aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandparents, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and get us to 2,000 subscribers. With all that said, I'll talk at all of you later.